Welcome to the Savage Worlds GM podcast. I'm your host, Jared Savage Daddy Gunning. Tonight's episode brought to you by Roll20.net, the world's largest virtual tabletop. Check them out today at Roll20.net. Check out our newly launched Patreon page, Patreon.com/SWGM podcast. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, SWGM podcast. Watch, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Wait for it, SWGM podcast. And subscribe and listen on iTunes. Savage Worlds Game Master podcast. Tonight we're going to be discussing tonight's episode is entitled Fighter Mage Thief. Are all characters in Savage Worlds the same? And the answer is obviously
yes.
No, and we're going to talk about it. So here to talk about it, out of turn, Chris the Savage Mommy Fox.
Hello.
Dustin, I have no lower third, the Savage Intern.
No, Mr. Weinstein, I don't want to watch a shower.
And that's why you'll always be the intern, because no bottom third.
And Dave, the Rules Maven Scott.
You know, every time I tweet about the Savage Worlds GM podcast, I get banned from Twitter.
Awesome. Stop hashtagging at Dice Duration. Okay, so and here's the other thing, too. We have, I'm going to start off, if you're watching the live broadcast, streaming on YouTube, feel free to comment. You can participate in the chat. We're going to recognize Carl Kendrick because tomorrow is his birthday. He absolutely gets a birthday Benny, but first he needs to make a vigor roll against fatigue for party fatigue.
And happy Savage birthday.
Yeah, we're going to say, if you're over 30, it's at a -2 because, age. So,
so he has the elderly hindrance all of a sudden?
No, just age, just -2. Just lumbago, -2. We're gonna come up with a new temporary injury chart for him and email it to him.
The Savage Worlds Discord that is linked to the G Plus community actually had a pretty decent conversation about how old do you need to be to qualify for the elderly hindrance.
I mean, if we're talking like IHOP rules, you got to be like 55.
No, the only real requirement is you have a strong desire to eat dinner at 4 p.m. That's really the only requirement to take the elderly hindrance.
And in bed by 7.
Yeah, because you got to be up by 5.
Exactly.
If you think about it, the code of honor hindrance is really just the mature adult hindrance.
There you go. So let's bring it back on fucking topic, gentlemen.
I haven't talked to you guys for 2 whole weeks.
I've been on 2 shows in a row.
It's awesome. It's awesome. We are jibless at the moment, but Jib is working some life and adulting issues with work. He may join us. He may not.
Chat's already going after you, Chris. Alec Muzzy wants to know why his Buccaneer Kickstarter was delayed.
Uh-oh.
You want to know why?
Uh-oh.
Because I'm not putting out a product until I feel that it's ready and it's where I want it to be.
Oh, holy shit. He pulled the Ernest Gallo, Julio Gallo line. We will sell no wine before it's time.
Exactly. It's gonna be good, and it's going to be out when we all feel like, hey, we've got the best product out there. I can tell you it's not going to be delayed 3 years like other Kickstarters I've seen.
It'll be ready when it's motherfucking ready.
Right.
Exactly. I mean I could put out something right now, but it's I'm not saying that it's not ready now, but it's not where I want it to be.
That's when you put it up on Indiegogo.
Right.
I mean, I think if I'm just going to say something, Chris is very adamant that the product will be out at a reasonable time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hashtag when I'm good and goddamn ready.
No, yeah. I mean, honestly, truly, we did a lot of editing work on it that we hadn't planned on doing just because we wanted to make sure that it was good, and I think it's going to be a good product. It's going to be fun, but honestly, I felt like some dates were put out there that were a little ambitious, and as the Savage Mommy, and I just put my foot down and said no. We've got to let people know that it's going to be delayed just because of the fact that we want it to be an even better product. I mean, we just got our first look at the character sheet today that Carl Kiesler did. It's phenomenal, and so that's something that we kind of wanted to wait on. We're working on. We have 12 adventures that were written by 12 different authors, and so we're getting ready to start going through those and making sure those are ready. So it's coming along. It'll be out.
I almost commented the other day. Charles White had actually put out what's required for a good Kickstarter, because he's starting to help some other developers get some Kickstarters going for other Savage products. And I almost immediately said, if you don't have a Carl Kiesler character sheet or something in the product, it's just not fit for the Savage community.
Yeah, set up the stuff.
Yeah.
God damn, that boy's a genius.
Oh yeah, the character sheet he made is he made us 2 versions of it, and we're like, they're both great, but the one version that we're going to use is just, I mean, it's stellar. It's such a nice character sheet. So pretty excited about that.
It's great that you have a stunning character sheet, but does it really matter? Because they're all going to be the same.
Exactly. We should talk about that
when you bring it back on topic.
Yeah, we should talk about how all characters in Savage Worlds are exactly the same. You can't have any differences. There's no difference.
I mean, every single one of them has fighting, shooting, throwing, notice, persuasion.
We could all make fighters, and we'll just call them Fighter 1, 2, 3, and 4 because they'll just be the same.
In the biz, that's what we refer to as a segue, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Okay, so let's talk about this concept, and the reason we entitled this one "Fighter Mage Thief," it's a standardized role playing trope, going back to the early days. What did I say?
Chat.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe I mispronounced something. If I mispronounce something and you're playing the at-home game, go ahead and mark off your square on the bingo card. But it's an existing trope, almost a meme of sorts, that goes back to original D&D. That basically all characters are fighters. Some are just weaker fighters with magic. Others are weaker fighters with the thief ability. But characters are pretty much all the same. They're just some level of fighter with some character customization. Now, that's been a criticism that people have laid at the feet of Savage Worlds. Well, all the characters are the same. So let's talk about that. Are they really all the same? Just because we have a very standardized skill list, a very short skill list, and we have different edges for different character classes that are just named after the edge, instead of having it be a specialized ranger class feat that mechanically does the same thing that the edge does, or mechanically comes very close to doing the same thing that firing a firebolt does, that magic missile does, except it's just not called magic missile.
Wait. You mean bolt and a pistol do the exact same damage at the same range?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like looking at the character creation section in Savage Worlds, and I'm thinking about all the times I have to explain this is a point and buy system. You have 5 points to spend on your attributes, and you have 15 points to spend on your skills, and then you pick your edges and your hindrances. And then I go over to another system, and they're like, well, this is your character class. Roll some dice for me. You seriously are telling me that everything is the same, and you get to build from your own imagination? And then going off what you said a minute ago, how everybody builds fighters. I ran a Deadlands Noir game where everybody built a gunslinger. Needless to say, they couldn't find squat in New Orleans. I'm like, give me a Streetwise roll. Well, I don't have Streetwise. Okay, well, look around. You find some documents. Give me an investigation roll. I don't have any investigation. Okay, go back to the tavern, get drunk, and wait for somebody to club you.
So, I mean, the very first thing you can do is you can point to a lack of imagination, or even just a lack of applying your imagination. I'm not necessarily saying that the people who are making this claim don't have an imagination. But what I am saying is they're absolutely not engaged properly if they feel that way. Because as soon as I buy fighting, in my head, I know whether my character is a martial arts master, a Krav Maga student, a fencing instructor, a freaking
bare knuckle pugilist.
I was gonna say Shinjuku, a samurai, but in the high feudal time, a Ronin samurai from the lower feudal time. Whether or not my character is walking around with a great axe or a pair of daggers, those things are all available with the same stat in fighting and make for wildly different characters. And I have not even gone into any other skills, edges, anything. That's one skill, and that's how much I can pour into that one skill to make that character different.
Yeah, I mean that's we've said this before. I think the whole point of this whole thing is it's how you use your skills, your edges, your hindrances. That makes you have a different character.
And I think I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that I think a lot of players. I think this conceit comes from people who are coming from other role playing systems, who are mired in the idea of classes. And basically having everything spoon-fed to them, basically. Right. Here you go. Here's your character sheet. Say because here's the special things that a thief does that nobody else gets to do. There you go.
Right, and that's all you get to pick from is what's already here for you.
Right. So all that's required of your imagination is to pick a class.
Right.
And Savage Worlds doesn't do that. Savage Worlds goes create a character. From scratch, from a concept, go. You could be anything you want to be. We don't have any restrictions. Do what you want.
Call this out from chat. Chris Redmond goes, but David, fighting is the, and he put it in all caps because it's important, the skillo in Savage Worlds. I'm assuming he just means skill.
I know, Chris. He actually means skillo.
And at the end of the day, I have run characters that never spent a single point in fighting for, what was it, Jared? 19 or 20 some odd months in a zombie survival game. Never bought fighting. Not 1 point in fighting, not 1 point in shooting, not 1 point in throwing. In a game where we had to fight the undead on a regular basis to simply survive. Never spent those points. I bought other things. I didn't need them. I had the imagination and the ability to use agility tricks and smarts tricks and persuasion checks and all the other tools in the Savage Worlds toolbox. I didn't need a combat skill.
Let's talk about that too. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Well, you can't play a Savage Worlds character without taking notice. The fuck you can't. Every character I create, no notice. And here's why I don't have notice. Just for the who's at home, because I look at skills as things that your character has learned to do. And if I'm not a reporter, if that's not my concept, if my concept isn't journalist or private investigator, guess who doesn't take the fucking notice skill? Regardless of whether I think it's going to be a metagaming component where I'm going to be asked to make a notice roll, fine. Failure is interesting.
I really, going off of that, Jared, I think that, just to say this, in a lot of cases, GMs tend to overuse the notice skill when they roll with their game. If you're going to you need to use your notice skill if you're looking for clues. If you are trying to detect a lie, notice or streetwise if you're trying to detect a lie. If there's something just out there. But I feel like a lot of times when GMs run, they just notice as our default that we go to.
Well, I have a great example of that I think I've given before. It was one of the Deadlands one sheets, and I've brought this up. and I won't say which one sheet, but you ride into town and there's some crosses and some bodies on the crosses, and it says it in the read aloud text, but then then it says have them make a notice check to notice the crosses and bodies in town.
Yeah,
huh?
You fucking notice a big ass cross with a body hanging from it.
Yeah. Why do I need to make a notice check for that?
Because otherwise you don't see that shit.
You know,
right, as you ride right past it, and this is right there in front of you, but you don't see it. You don't see it because you didn't make that notice roll.
I mean,
have them do vigor checks to see if they're hungover. I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Well, and I mean, I completely agree with the overuse of notice, but the only thing I would say about notice and characters is that, and I've said this before, is for convention characters, I like to give them notice because that's the first thing players bitch about. Well, what do you mean this character, this pre-gen doesn't have notice? Well, he doesn't have notice. That's not really his thing. Well, can I get rid of this and give him notice? Well, for fuck's sake. I'll just give all the characters at least a D4 in notice so that we can move on.
Well, what about this? What about not calling for a notice roll the whole night?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Just if they're gonna see it, tell them what they see it.
Here's the thing. I will honestly say this. If you're creating pre-gens, you do not put a skill on that record sheet that you don't think will actually come up.
Right, exactly.
If the character's not going to have to do any investigation, you don't put investigation on any of the pre-gens. If a player decides they want to do some investigation that they really don't need to do, that is completely anathema to the setting and whatnot, you've written together for that one shot, that's great. Let them make the unskilled roll. It's what it's there for.
Right.
But at the end of the day, as a GM, you're curating that experience. But I think the reverse is also true. In a curated experience, we, the GMs, are falling into the same trap. We're giving characters a lot of combat skills because at a con, that's the fastest way to a resolution is through combat.
Right.
You want to drive that character into a combat, get the big explosive dice on the table, let everybody have, a lot of fun taking out mooks, and then move on. Instead, load a character up with, all the edges and persuasion out the ass, and then actually challenge them with roleplay, with a social conflict, with things that have nothing to do with combat. And you can teach those players, whether they're home players or they're a con player, you can teach them just how fun this game can be when you never draw swords and when the character's not specialized to be the best sword drawer in the world.
Right.
I was actually a player in a 5e game, and I had a trickster cleric. He was a cleric of Alidamara. And I had persuasion for days. I was the only cleric I've ever seen that didn't even have healing. And I managed to talk us past 2 sets of guards and directly into the enemy's camp. And after talking past those 2 sets of guards and talking our way into the stronghold, the guy who was playing the barbarian just quit. He was just like, I'm not doing this.
Well, you took away his fun.
He couldn't think of anything else. Everything was just bash it with a club.
Mm-hmm. Well, and therein lies the rub is, I think the people who are complaining that everything's a fighter, everything, all the rules in Savage Worlds are about combat, those are the people who want to play combat.
Yeah. They can't, to the world of a hammer, everything is a nail.
Well, and some of, like we were saying earlier too, a lot of that falls on the shoulders of the GMs that are running the games, who are treating it as, oh, well, tonight's about a combat and attrition, and now it's another combat and attrition. Oh, guess what? We've had 2 combats. Time for another combat.
Right.
Yeah.
And it becomes the all-you-can-eat combat melee buffet, and nobody's using tactics. Nobody's Nobody's taking advantage of the fact that Savage Worlds is a cinematic system.
Right.
And that's kind of buried it's kind of buried in the layer of the text. You got to kind of read between the lines a little bit to have that light bulb go off that, hey, this is a cinematic system. So it encourages thinking outside of the box, trying things that aren't done by rote, trying a different method to get to a resolution, even to the point where when you're running the game, goddamn, run it cinematically. When somebody goes, well, I draw my sword and I'm making a fighting roll, as a GM go, nope, give me something else. Describe that some other way. I draw my sword and thrust it at the goblin's belly. I thrust my dagger at the blah, blah. Describe it, not just, okay, I make a fighting roll. Okay. Did I overcome its parry? Yeah, okay, good. You got a 6. Did I overcome its parry? Okay, roll damage. Okay, now its toughness is this. Okay, you did. Oh, shaking with the wound. Okay, you're going to soak that damage. And just talking about what you're doing as fucking mechanical masturbation, just referring to everything as you do this, do that, blah, 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 and not bringing any story to it, not bringing any drama, no flair whatsoever. I mean, to the point where the idea, and I think I'm going to kind of veer off this path a little bit, just so follow me here for a second, because I think this is part of the problem as well. There's a lack of interpretation, and we've had this kind of conversation before. Because a hit doesn't do damage doesn't mean that you didn't hit. So I can hit, I'm gonna attack a dragon. Now, as a player character, I've got all the bonuses in the fucking world to hit that thing. It's only got a parry of 6. I've got fighting. It's a huge creature. I get a +4 to hit its ass. I got all the benefit in the world mechanically to score a hit and probably roll an extra die for an attack roll raise. Here's the thing, though. Dragons have 20 toughness. I'm not going to do any damage with a dagger. I'm not going to cause a wound with a dagger. But we do this sort of thing where, okay, roll, no damage, and then we move on. And the GM should be going, the dragon hisses at you. Or, oh, one of its scales is chipped. It's not something that's done a wound, but it still was a damaging attack. Don't take the success away from the player character because they scored a raise but didn't cause a wound or didn't cause shaken. I think that speaks a little bit to, oh, Savage Worlds characters are all the same. Yeah, because you're not bringing any concept or imagination. You're trying to build a mechanically effective character.
Right.
Stop that and build something that fits your concept.
Right. If you take a look at the archetypes in Savage Worlds, for example, it'll give you, it starts with driver, goes all the way down to weird scientist. And we'll give you the classic tropey concepts for anything from a pulp era game to fantasy. What you'll notice is the driver has driving at a D8. Guess what driving is for the face man? Nothing. He's not a driver because driving doesn't fit into his concept. Well, what's his big? Oh, he's got a D10 persuasion. Fuck yeah, he does, because he's a persuasive talking son of a bitch.
Well, it's because that's their essential skill. That's the essence of the character. Like, if you were to go into the allied and extra section and you look at the soldier and the experienced soldier, D8 in shooting. Why? Because that's the essential skill. If you look at a mage or a wizard and the fantasy companion, they either have a D8 or a D10 in spellcasting. Why? Because that is the essence of their character.
Well, and you talk about the people who always have combat stats. Look at those archetypes. There's 2 of them that don't have fighting. Don't have a combat skill at all. Scientist and weird scientist. And weird scientist, that's a freaking caster. That's a character that's walking around probably with like a boomstick or, you know, a head to jar that talks. I don't know, whatever you want to give them. But that character is absolutely effective in a fight. And they don't have any combat skills.
And I want to bring something up. I want to play off of what you said there, Dave. Because here's the thing. I've always looked at the weird scientists and I've thought this is what the this is what the mage should be built like, only instead of weird science, give it spellcasting, and instead of gadgeteer, give it power points, and you've got a better mage than the actual mage.
Oh, absolutely. The mage that's in the book, I think, is yet again
fantasy.
If you look, you've got like the priest healer, the mage. Those are dedicated archetypes designed one-to-one to hand to a player who came from D20. And I'm not saying that to belittle the system as much as you have to remember Shane cut his teeth with D20 and Torg and class-based style systems before he designed Savage Worlds. So he built in archetypes that are there for people who are making that shift from classes and need that structure. That's what those are there for. I personally don't much use the archetypes anymore, but that's because at this point, in my head in 15 minutes, I can create a character complete with the hindrances, the edges, all the bells and whistles, all the trappings that I want to put on that, complete in 15 minutes, but I have 10 years of experience. If you just sat down with Savage Worlds for the first time and went, "Oh, I want to play Gandalf," well, oh look, there's a mage archetype here that tells me where to put all my points, and I can be Gandalf. I can walk in with a staff in one hand and a sword in the other.
Right. Well, and then here's the other thing too. You can get to this point in Savage Worlds as well. Well, wait a minute. I want to play a Hobbit. Where's the Hobbit? Where's the Hobbit race? Where's the Hobbit archetype? Sure, you could go look at the Fantasy Companion. You'll find one there, but Savage Worlds has its own race creation rules for you. So if you can imagine it, there's a set of instructions you can follow, point by point, and create it.
And it's easy. That's a thing. Is really the Savage Worlds race creation is really easy. It's a point system that you have X amount of points that you get for an edge. You get X amount of points for a hindrance, and at the end, I think it has to equal out to 0. So if this is a +2 edge and a -2 hindrance, there you go. So it's really easy.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it.
Not a +2, but the thing about that Chris is mentioning, it's fucking player facing. It doesn't say your GM will have designed races for you. It's right in the character creation rules. Here's the race creation rules. Create your own race as a player.
And I had somebody do that for my last Parsec game. He created an entire race, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was not anything more overpowered or any grandiose or anything any different than the ones that were already in the book, because they make it so everything evens out based on what you buy.
And the reason that works is because humans get a free edge at character creation, and they're going, okay, that's worth 2 points. A free edge is worth 2 points because you have to buy 2 points of hindrances to buy an edge. And so when you create the race, when you create your own race, here, pick a +2 racial ability, and we're going to call that your free edge for the race. You don't get to then pick a free edge. So I can't create Repto Amphibia, this guy, and then you go, okay, well, he's semi-aquatic. So that's my racial feature. And then go to character creation and pick a free edge. You don't get to do that. That's how that racial creation system elegantly, beautifully keeps everything balanced with any other standard race you're going to play.
I'm going to say it's very simple. If you want to play a Hobbit, you take the hindrance small, and that gives you 2 points. So you take the edge fleet-footed.
Right. Or luck. Yeah, however you go about
right. However you see your Hobbit, really.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And therein lies something that I think the Savage Worlds Superpowers companion does in spades. Is it actually has a rule in the book that says all player characters are human. And those that aren't human are mechanically human, but they have different colored skin or they have extra arms. Design it with the same system. You have the same points to spend. You have the same ability to buy these drawbacks to pay for more power points, the whole 9 yards. Just create that character and call it what you want. Mechanically, all characters are human. Everybody gets the plus free edge. Done.
But Dave, we all know that there's a mechanical difference between a standard human and a humanoid with blue skin.
Yeah, one's blue.
Oh, there's a definite mechanical difference.
Yes.
You go to play the game.
What I will say.
Because you have blue skin, you get an automatic cover bonus when you stand against the sky or in the water. Not just kidding.
I promise you, you could play Star Wars and never use the race creation rules, never use the superpowers companion, and not allow your players to play anything but humans. You want to be a Wookiee? Your free starting edge is Brawny. You want to be a Gamorrean? Your free starting edge is Brawny, and then you took Ugly and bought another freaking, couple points in fighting. It's all available. It doesn't take much thought at all to take these rules and do what you want. The problem is, it's not, here's a book that's just for fighters, and we've thought of everything fighters can do in this one book, and now here's another book I'm going to sell you for clerics, and another book I'm going to sell you for mages that tells you everything you need to know. You have to think of it.
Yep. And I think that's part of the issue. If you guys have splat books, break out your splat books, go through and ask yourself how much of this is just fluff. How much of this is absolutely just filler, just like describing like weird stuff that happened 10 or 15 years that has no relevance over the actual overarching plot. You can take out at best 20% of your splat book. At worst, you can take out 80%. It's like a catalog that just shows new gear.
So Uncle Dave's going to tell a story. Story time, mark it off the bingo card. Years ago, I think it was 3rd edition D&D was out, and they released all these burgundy books. I'm fairly certain I could stand up, walk in the other room, and come back with the one I'm getting ready to talk about. It was the complete handbook on elves. And it was this burgundy bound, kind of a pleather feeling thing.
Yep.
And everybody in the world suddenly showed up to the table with blade singers and archers who used their feet to shoot their bow because it was in that book. None of them motherfuckers thought of it before the book was released. So no one was asking to do it before. But there wasn't a new rule that said you could shoot your bow with your foot or that you could use a sword and be a mage. There wasn't some new rule that let you do these things. It was someone thought, hey, fighter mage, couldn't they walk around throwing fireballs with one hand and wielding a sword with the other? Hey, bam, here's this new thing we're going to tell people about. Hey, elves are supposed to be these master archers. What happens when they're up in the tree and, yeah, they put the bow down on their foot so that they can pull up on the drawstring to shoot down at the opponent? Well, duh. I mean, come on. All this book did is use its imagination for you. Those weren't nifty new things that were suddenly added to the game. It was what someone did in some GM's game that GM wrote down, mailed it to TSR, and sold to you.
It was just fluff.
I think Ruben nails the issue on the head. So, beauty of Savage Worlds, rarely used but useful for some. All caps, specialization. If you're, and here's the thing: it doesn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if all the characters have a D6 notice. So what? They all have a D6 notice. Well, everybody's got a fighting of D6 and a parry of 5. Okay. If it fits the narrative, fine. Who cares? It doesn't mean that you all approach fighting the exact same way. You could be a dirty fighter who uses agility tricks followed by an attack. Hey, what's that over there? Oh, he just pulled the smarts roll on your ass.
Where's my edge that lets me do that?
You don't
Dirty
need an edge in the rules. It's part of the main core rule. Hey, you know what? This asshole who keeps waving this wand at me, I think I'm going to shoot it out of his hand with an arrow. Well, wait, do you have the skill feat for that, to do that? Yeah, it's called fucking shooting. And I'm going to make a called shot. And Savage Worlds handles that very easy. Called shot to the hand, -2. Give me a called shot at -2.
Yeah, and a disarm is basically you roll a strength roll, and your target number is how much damage that you did. Isn't that right?
Yep.
Yeah, and then you could disarm them.
Right. So if you're rolling around this wave and I go, okay, here, boom. Okay, I got a hit. Okay, I'm going to roll some damage. Okay, I rolled 18 damage. Okay, now the guy that you just hit has to roll 18 or higher to hold on to the weapon. Makes a strength roll. 18 or higher to hold on the weapon. Oh, you know what? Guess what? You can even go out on a limb as a GM and decide, you know what? It's not really about strength. It's more about agility for what the type of weapon he's holding or using. So just substitute agility against the damage. Go for it.
So I think the interesting aspect of the conversation is that, to a certain extent, what we're trying to say is apply the imagination to it. But what about the fact that you can design a character that's nothing like another character at the table because of just the combination of skills, attributes, and edges, to where nobody rolls the same thing for, say, notice or fighting. You know, you've got one guy who's got a D4 -2, another guy's got a D6. Yet another might have a D8 +3, +2 because he took a feat that adds to attacking, or edge to attacking, and then another edge he took for trademark weapon. I mean, there's enough things you can stack together to where you don't have to be just like the person sitting next to you, even if you aren't worried about whether or not you used all the fancy language or your imagination to create the character. Mechanically, you only have 15 points for skills. There's 25 skills. You can't buy them all. You can't be identical. You can't have the same stat in everything as everyone else. Someone else at the table is going to prioritize things differently than you. And I think if you're prioritizing the same skills every time you create a character, that's your mistake, not the game.
I'm going to throw something out there. Has anybody ever had a situation where you have a player with 15 skills at a D4?
No.
Once.
So 2 out of 4 GMs.
It was right after we first started playing Savage Worlds for the first time, and he handed me his character sheet, and he had literally spent 1 point in everything, and he told me, that's so that when I advance, everything goes up more quickly, and I don't ever have to spend a whole advance to buy any of these 15 skills.
Yeah, and I'm sure he used all 15 of those skills all the time.
Oh, he absolutely tried to. He came to me 2 weeks later and goes, "Why can't my character do anything? I'm failing at everything I try."
Because you're spread out, you're not specialized or skilled in anything.
He had made himself the pirate ship captain, so he had spent the edge to get the boat, because I wasn't a good enough GM of Savage Worlds at the time to go, that edge is not available. You guys just get a free boat. I was a dumbass. I made him pay for it. And then on top of it, like, he bought a D4 and everything, basically. Put D6s in all his stats. And then wonder why he couldn't wear a full plate set of armor when you had to buy You know, the chest piece only covers the chest when you look at the breastplate. So he had to buy greaves and arms and the helmet. And he's like, I'm so weighted down, my character can't move. Like, well, maybe you need to make some different decisions.
That's what we call a learning opportunity.
Right. Well, and okay, and to Dave's point as well. Let's say we got 4-player characters in the game, and we're gonna all play wizards, magic users of some kind in a fantasy. You can create the same characters almost identically across the board. You could give them all bolt as their initial power, but you get to trap it any way you like. Oh, I cast mine from a wand. Oh, it comes out of my fingertips. Oh, I clap my hands and waves go out. It's just not spelled out for you. It's not, hey, as a level 1 wizard, you get magic missile at a certain level, and here's exactly what it does and exactly what it looks like. Savage Worlds goes, it's your character, goddammit. You tell me.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me. You know better than I do what your character does when it casts a fireball.
And I think about that and I laugh a little bit because when you stop and think about it, and you really rewind the clock back to the early 80s, the late 70s with D&D, D&D did the same fucking thing. There wasn't, 9 pages of errata and fluff for what Magic Missile looked like and what the exact material components were for it. No, it was freaking Magic Missile does 1d4 points of damage per bolt, automatically hits, done. It was, here's the mechanics of it, done. They didn't give 2 shits the way you described it in your game back then. It's only after that game's been on the market for, 60 goddamn years almost, that now you have more goddamn fluff than you need to choke a full-size camel.
I think it's a business reason that they do that. They have to do that to sell books because at the end of the day, it's still a business. And I mean, you can, like each edition you could play. There are people that refuse to move past second ed just because that's their favorite. And then you get the people who want to play third. And then you got those people who want to play 3.5 and they argue whether or not Pathfinder is different. I don't care. I play Savage Worlds.
Exactly.
But I wonder if Starfinder is going to be any better. I don't care. I play Savage Worlds.
They're like, well, man, it's so great because like they've adjusted the skills to make it so that when you throw a grenade in 0 gravity, I'm like, man, it's just throwing a grenade, okay? Why did they go through and hire some kind of physics graduate student to crunch this when it's just throwing something? Like, you have to erase a certain level of the detail. You just have to, because there is no way that the creatures would exist. There's no way, like, magic can't explain everything. And, like, science that gets to, like, this far out level becomes, air quotes, magic. So you just have to say to yourself, does it work? I roll the die, I throw it, it works. I don't need to explain it. I just threw it.
Well, let me ask this. So, okay, we're going to play not Savage Worlds. Okay, I don't care what game system. And I'm going to come to you. I may be able to get away with this in Fate. But I tell you, I'm going to play a cybernetic zombie Rhesus monkey. Now, a zombie cyborg monkey. With the with the tail and everything. Now, if I traded, so what? How do I do that in I don't know, D20?
I have no idea.
Exactly, no idea.
20, but I'll bet you somebody out there with enough creativity could do it.
Right.
And I think therein lies the rub. Is I know we bag on D&D and D20 all the fucking time. All the fucking time.
Oh, they're easy targets. I mean,
But at the end of the day, I was able to run a high-quality role-playing experience with a group of veteran role players for several years using fucking 4th edition D&D. I did it. It was everybody at the table had fun. Everybody had taken their little deck of cards that you could buy that had all the little special abilities the characters got based on their class, and like had rewritten in their own head what it looked like and smelled like and sounded like and all of that at the table. And all we did is play with that mechanic structure beneath a game that we described.
Right.
You can do it if you apply yourself. Savage Worlds just gets the fuck out of the way so you don't have to work around it to do it.
Playing off of what you just said, Dave, here's been my experience with my Thursday night group. For those of you who wonder why I'm not here every Thursday, I have a Thursday night game. They're all Pathfinder players, and I've had some people that have quit and they haven't been back. And when I asked about it, their complaint was, well, if you're not going to GM, I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you build your characters. You tell me what your character's goals are. I put the things in front of you. You figure it out. And in all honesty, I'm the kind of GM that actually that lets my characters affect the world. So there are consequences for doing something strange. But you get down to it, like you talk to them long enough and they need that structure. They absolutely need complete and total structure, because if you start getting into that area of fighting is fighting is fighting, fighting is I fence, fighting is I'm a boxer, fighting is I'm like a Tai Chi master, fighting is I have like one of those weird paddle balls that I just hit people with.
Oh my God, that would be awesome.
Ludicrous Mage, baby. Ludicrous Mage. I'm just saying, like, wrapping your head around the idea of this is what it does. You don't have to come up with 50,000 different rules for each and every possibility. You just say, well, what's my goal? What skill is closely associated with it? That's what I'm going to roll. That's what I'm going to ask you to roll.
And for every player like that can't wrap their head around it, you have brand new players that never role played in their life. I just sat down this past weekend and role played with my nieces and nephews. It was the first time we'd gotten a chance to do it. Threw dice on the table, gave them some character sheets, and we rolled up Savage Worlds characters. They used the archetypes to make their characters because they didn't know the system well enough to build what they wanted, and I didn't want to step in and build characters for them. So we just grabbed the archetypes. They said, this is kind of like what I want, and went with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had one of them who, in the middle of a dramatic task, where we're narrating them kind of going through this ruined manor house and searching it. And it's a dramatic task. We're drawing cards. I'm reaching for the third card draw, and my eldest niece next to me grabs my arm and goes, hey. Right now what happens is that their character, and she points to her little sister, has fallen back because she's greedy and looking for treasure. She had greedy written down as a hindrance on her character sheet, and she's actually known for taking the last piece of pizza around the house. So it's perfectly fair. She fell back looking for more treasure and saw an open door, got too close, an arm shoots out, grabs her, pulls her in, and the door slams. I'm like, that absolutely happens. I need the rest of you to give me a notice roll. What do you mean? Well, we have to know if you spotted it or not. So they all give me notice rolls, and they all universally fail. So we continue the dramatic task, and then I say, now hold it, and I turn to her and go, what's in the room with you? And the first words out of her mouth, it's a treasure chest that tries to eat me. Perfect, let's go with that. What happens? And I let them add all this to the game. I didn't fucking plan it. I had no idea there was going to be a mimic in the game, and they didn't even know that what they were talking about is called a mimic because they've never role-played. They just wanted a treasure chest to attack her. So we rolled with it, and she ended up getting a dagger out of it, which is going to turn out to be cursed later. You know, the whole 9 yards. But these players were actively putting themselves in bad situations because it sounded interesting at the table. because they hadn't been taught these bad lessons of I've always got to win, I've always got to roll highest, I've got to do what this book tells me my character can do. The kid playing the mage swung his staff, and when he missed, I said, "Are you happy with that?" And he goes, "I'm not spending a penny. My character falls on their face because I can't hit people with my staff." I can't teach a character to be a player to be that good. And this is coming from a 13-year-old because he hasn't been taught these bad lessons.
Right. Right. So I love how you brought that up. I've got someone very close to me, and I've been trying to convince her to get involved in gaming. And one of the complaints that I get is I suck at rolling. And I looked at this person, I said, everybody sucks at rolling. It's not a skill that you can control.
It's random.
There are certain things that are just out of your hand. And like, that's one of the things, I don't know, like Jared, you can reprimand me later for like segueing. But the thing of it is, there are some things that you just have to accept are random. Like you cannot build someone that is going to get a plus 100 sneak attack 100% of the time. You're going to have to like blow some points, like get a D10 in shooting and get the marksman edge, and then get like Elan and luck and great luck, and you got a much better chance, but you're not guaranteed a 100% chance to hit. Some things are out of your hand.
And it wouldn't be any fun if you could.
Right. I was thinking the same thing. You got to have that chance of failure.
If your players are telling you that the game's not any fun because they keep missing, if your players are telling you the game's not any fun, they don't feel heroic enough, give them an automatic +6 to everything they do. And at the end of the night, ask them how much fun they had.
Right.
I guarantee they won't have felt challenged. They won't have felt like anything they did mattered because everything they did auto-succeeded.
And that robs them. That's the thing. When you have somebody that wants the players to succeed at every single thing that they do, that there is no point to this, that there is no challenge, you have robbed them of that sensation of overcoming because they didn't overcome anything.
Well, I saw a recent post in the it's either the Savage Worlds Game Master community on G Plus or Savage Worlds, where one of the GMs is going, I'm thinking about changing the wound penalties because they seem a little harsh. That's why God created bennies. What do you mean you got to change the wound penalties because they're too harsh?
They should be harsh. You're wounded.
I mean, you're bleeding to death. They're actually kind of nice about it.
I'll be blunt. In the game that we're currently playing on Friday nights, I changed the entire wound system, gave it a fancy name. I think I called it trauma or something, and I handed it to Jared to run. And he goes, wait, there's no wound penalties anymore? I'm like, no, keep reading. And when he read it, he goes, oh, that sucks. And then we played it. And I think in the first session, almost everyone came within one Benny of dying. Like, we had people who got run over by semis, and just the wounds that piled up and the way it affected the character was so dramatically bad that it completely, really felt like your character had just been fucking gut shot. Like, it took you out of the fight to take a single wound in some cases. That system takes away the wound penalties, but it doesn't take away the idea that something negative happens to you. If you did, the whole game just becomes Die Hard, where Bruce Willis is going to win by the end because nothing the bad guys do to him has any goddamn effect. Oh, he's got cut up feet? He'll just walk across the glass. Oh, he's been dropped down an elevator shaft and blown up? He'll just launch a car and a helicopter. I mean, he can't be defeated, and therefore, it's not as much fun.
Well, I think we've had this conversation before too. It's a little bit of the video game generation conditioning of I just respawn. Whoa. What do you mean my character's dead? What does that mean? It means he's dead.
It means create a new character. Wait, what?
I can't duck behind a corner and auto heal?
So he's gonna respawn, right? I mean, wait. I'm gonna just go start back at the beginning, like 3 scenes ago, with the same character. No, you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know.
I get in that situation. I have the one guy that always wants to play the cousin from out of town.
So his character dies and he brings in the exact same thing.
Right. It's like, oh, cousin Oliver has died. Here's cousin Tolliver. Here's cousin Walliver.
Yeah, we had a guy like that a long time ago. It was in three in 3rd edition. He would only play cleric or paladins, and if his paladin died, he would bring in, this is my new paladin. You're like, all you did was erase the name and put a new name.
Right.
Yeah, but he's a new character. No.
Hand to God, my last death in a game, my character is identical from before the death to after the death, with one exception, his name. Now, when I sat down and role-played him, completely different guy. Just night and day on the role-play end.
That's one of the great things about Savage Worlds, like we were talking about before. It's like, okay, so yeah, my wizard died. He was a frost wizard, and I'm going to make a fire wizard with a Dutch accent.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's weird, yeah.
Okay, listen, I don't know where you guys picked up your accent, but you're doing that Dutch accent completely wrong.
How's it done, Jared?
This is how you do it. I'm going to speak actual Dutch, so follow with me. I am an FBI agent. And then, the customary Dutch greeting. Whoa. And then, when you're approaching somebody and asking for a favor, you look at them and you go, I know Kung Fu. That's how you speak Dutch.
Well, I knew what you were saying.
That was good. That was good Dutch. I'm impressed.
Yeah. No such thing as a bad accent in role-playing. That's just my philosophy. Make it up if you have to. And here's like we said too, even fighters can be different based on the choices you make when it comes to edges. So okay, great. Dave and I both create fighters, and you know what? The stats are identical. We have the exact same attribute die types, the exact same skills. So what makes my character different? Oh, my character deals in short swords and is dual wielding. Guess what? I don't have to wait till I get to a certain rank or level to become dual wielding.
Not only can you build that at novice, you could just do it without building it.
You just got to take the negatives.
And then, I can take the ambidextrous edge. I can take the two-fisted edge. There's edges I can take that dial in that character specialization that makes me a different fighter than Dave. If we all sat down and created the 3 Musketeers, their stats would be pretty much different, or pretty much the same. I mean, all across the board. What would make them different are their role-playing hindrances and the edges they have.
Yep.
But that's based on character concept, not on I'm a Musketeer.
Mm-hmm.
And, you could create a Musketeer and go habit major, the ladies. And if he's not getting attention from a bar witch at least once every 24 hours, he starts to, have a negative effect. Like, oh God, I'm not feeling it today, guys. I'm at a -1 fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
The best part is in our Friday night game, we've actually got a player who's had that for his character. He took habit major, the ladies.
The ladies.
It's like, I don't know how I'm going to function on this full night of sleep.
And he's the total face character, but he wants to play the high comedy and things. So doesn't have a really great smarts, And that character, the stats reflect his choices based on the concept. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, where the rubber hits the road. You have to look at Savage Worlds, and that first of all, you have to come at it with a very strong concept. You have to know who the character is, not what role they're going to be playing in your game.
Wait,
who
so my character
is this character?
Garbage man? Maybe I said, hey, so my character's a fat, lazy garbage man. Maybe I don't need fighting, shooting, throwing, but I do have knowledge ham radio, knowledge fishing,
The scavenger edge.
survival.
For dumpster diving, absolutely.
I'm serious. The scavenger edge.
Because he could freaking find something in a trash pile that'll do.
You're like Junkyard Batman right there.
Absolutely.
And I think Scott has said it best when he's trying to explain in the past, like, listen, here's why Savage Worlds is different. I can create a wizard that can shoot you with the magic missile, walk up, kick you in the nards, and then punch you or stab you with a dagger. And I don't need to be any special multi-class to do that shit. I can do that as a
round.
Right. I can do it all in one round. So yeah, I would say if you're having a player that's struggling or players that are struggling with, well, we're all kind of vanilla, that guy, start challenging them. Look at their character sheet and go, okay, wait, you're the wizard. Why do you just have Bolt written down? Why doesn't this spell have a name?
Right, yeah.
Where's the trappings? Is it a firebolt? Is it a bolt of electricity? How do you cast it? Do you have to do incantations? Say gibbity bobbity boop in order for you to cast this thing, or is it you wave your hand back and forth and a ball of electricity appears in your hands and then you throw it? How does this work?
Where was your character born? Where did he learn magic? I got a fun game for you. There's the player directly to your left. How does your character know them personally? Come on, let's have an interlude. Pull out a card. How do you know this person that you're in the group with?
I'll take you and go one better on that one, Dustin. If you've got a group of players who are constantly making the exact same character and they tell you that it's Savage World's fault, then what you do, the next time you run a session 0, have everyone make their character and hand the character sheet to the player to their left.
Yep. And it will be very different.
I guarantee the person who was sitting to their left runs that character differently than the person who designed it was thinking of it in their head. Because those two people are going to identify that character very differently, even with the exact same stat block.
Yep. 98% sure that would happen.
Right.
You might have your 1 or 2% of, people who they all role play exactly the same, but that's going to be very, very rare.
Well, and then also too, this is the customization for Savage Worlds for the role play section. It really comes into, please pick hindrances that fit your character concept. Stop it with the loyal. I see it on every character sheet. Oh my hindrance is loyal. Wait, stop it.
Heroic, loyal,
cautious, arrogant.
You're going to have to play that if that's going to be your character. You're going to have to act that way.
Well, okay, so for example, you could go, okay, well, what's your character concept? You look at the player, what's your character concept? She's a play by her own rules, strong, independent woman, Lois Lane type, aggressive, ambitious journalist. Okay, what are her hindrances? Well, she's got loyal.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. No, Lois Lane would step over her own mother for a story. We're talking about loyal. No, not loyal.
Yep.
Curious, definitely yes. Overconfident, absolutely.
Yep.
Heroic, no. No. Why?
I mean, she's more than just Superman's girlfriend. She actually has a personality, and sometimes she's an a-hole.
Yeah, mean.
Honor as a moral code that she follows.
Mm-hmm.
That she thinks it's morally reprehensible to shoot prisoners of war, but she's absolutely not heroic.
But I'm gonna say that
shooting them. She's just gonna write an article about the fact you shot them.
this is a great way to This is a great time to segue into Carlin Kendrick's "Why aren't your edges and hindrance traps? Do I have to guess?"
Yep.
And they are trapped, just like Dave was saying. Like there's ethics.
Yeah, you could even go so far as with a Lois Lane character, a journalist. You could take Code of Honor and spell out what that journalist code is. You never reveal a source. You blah, blah, blah. You blah, blah, blah. You blah, blah, blah. These are the 4 cardinal rules she holds gospel and lives by. Okay, great. Now we get into gameplay. Yep. The FBI shows up and says you have to reveal your source.
She'll go to jail.
They say they're threatening to throw you in jail.
She'll do it.
Okay, well, now a criminal's got a hold of you. He's threatening to kill your family if you don't reveal where you picked up this piece of information on the mob smuggling in drugs.
She doesn't like her family.
I just accept the fact of not getting the Benny this time, that my hindrance came up because my mother's more important to me.
Exactly.
I made that tough choice in the moment. The character who takes bloodthirsty and pacifist, and then at the table has to decide every time that comes up which of those two they're role playing in that scene.
Right.
And then has to be able to weave that together to be a cohesive character that makes sense.
Right. So you just off the limb, you could make somebody who's a serial killer. Dexter, for example, could have pacifist and bloodthirsty.
Mm-hmm.
I only kill the bad guys, and I have a code that I just don't automatically kill somebody. I have to make sure I have to have evidence. Blah blah blah.
You can have
it all comes from character concept, and you need to bring a rich, well thought out character concept to this game if you want to really have characters stand out. The game requires you to bring the full weight of your imagination to the table. It does not tell you how to play your character or what your character looks like or what they do. The only thing it cares about are what are the mechanical effects of the game. So I have a rule for when you punch somebody, we all know what happens. Mm-hmm. How you punch them, where you punch them, if it's lethal or non-lethal, that's up to you. You decide. But we just have this real simple rule. It's called fighting. There's parry. There's toughness. Rock out. Here you go. Roll some dice. And it's built that way. It's not a error. It's not a fault. It's a feature. It's there for a reason. So that as a GM, I don't have to go, wait a minute, hold on. I think I have that book in my library shelf. Everybody take a 10-minute break. I need to go look up a rule and make a rule decision. No, you can make a rule decision at the table in fucking seconds. You're going to wait. You're going to what? You're going to walk up to a wolf, grab it by the tail, and just sort of like spin, javelin, and wait and let it go? Okay, where's the rules on throwing? Oh, God, how do I do this? You have throwing. Nope. It's a fucking push. It's a push maneuver spelled out real clearly. It's a push. So, yeah. If you find that's the case, really sit down with your GM or as a player, really go introspective and go, you know what? Okay, I've created a cleric. I know what a cleric is. Everybody knows what a cleric is. Great. I know my role in the party. Who is this character who is a cleric?
What are their sins?
Yep.
Sit down and actually look at the arcane background miracles. You have to write out sins. Those things that are a major sin and a minor sin for your god. You need to know that because it's going to mechanically affect you during play.
Yep. All right. Well, do we have anything left in the live chat that we've left unattended? Hold on. I think Carlin adds, my last game, I had to make a character creation Mad Lib so the character would put thought into their character. So I guess he means players. The blank answers became their skills, edges, and hindrances. hey, whatever you got to do at the table to get it done.
Seems like a lot of work.
It does indeed seem like a lot of work. But
Well, I know Dave and I personally will challenge your decisions at session 0. We'll go, hey, here's the kind of game we're playing. Here's the universe we're playing it in. Let's start creating some characters. And then, okay, let me look at your character. Why do you have this? Well, I studied dance. No, that sounds like a rationalization, not a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to go back and think about that. I think you need to go back and think about that edge. Didn't you really take it so you could attack everyone around you with one fighting roll and -2? That's the reason you took it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not a character reason.
Right, that's a mechanics reason.
Mm-hmm.
And look at it. We want character reasons.
Now,
And
if you push,
make mechanical choices too. But
Right.
don't only make mechanical choices.
right now, if you can't get it to the heads of your players, and they insist on making these combat effective characters, then guess what you do? You switched up the game and you don't give them combat. Or you give it to them very, very rarely. You do not make combat the focus of that adventure if they've built huge combat characters.
Right.
Or you have an adult conversation with your players and find out if that's all they're asking for.
Right, because then your game becomes pretty easy because you just you run 2 or 3 combats a night and you're done.
Yeah.
Now, there can come a certain point where you have as many adult conversations as you can until you're blue in the mouth, you're blue in the face, and you eventually have to go. The world is black. We started a new session. The world is black. As it starts to come into focus, you find yourself naked and tied to the side of a road, and all your shit's gone, and you have 2 wounds.
So I'm just going to point out, that's also the appropriate time to go, we've had like 6 adult conversations, and they're just not getting it. Time to find new players.
Yeah, at that point, it's time to go. We're done.
And you can do that with Roll20.net.
Let's see. I'm going to narrate a GM Fiat TPK, and we're going to close this thing up.
Thank you for playing.
Because it can't go any other way.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for playing. We're going to wrap this up. Hope you guys all find a different game that's going to be more to your liking.
Right. We're just going to go, you know what? We've decided to go, the GM, I've decided to go a different direction. Thanks for applying. Thanks for playing. It's been fun.
Mm-hmm.
Best of luck in your future role-playing game and endeavors.
Right.
If you're the kind of GM that just absolutely kind of, I don't know, maybe you're a Chris Fuchs kind of guy, you can't deal with any kind of conflict at the table, introduce a new setting rule that says when your character dies, you can't come back to the game.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. That won't cause conflict.
Yeah, when your character's dead, you're out.
See ya.
I mean, your guy's an assassin. You know what happens when he gets whacked.
Sure, we're going to play an investigative game, and we said the idea was you all work for a detective agency. Sure, you can play an assassin. Why not?
We're playing permadeath, just so you know. When your character dies, I'm finding a new player.
Jesus Christ, so I made a little mistake. I didn't say no. I've learned.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me, Chris, because I had a guy play Indiana Jones in a Deadlands Noir, and I'm like, I'm just going to let him do it. I had another... Go ahead.
My players overruled me, and they all decided that the woman got to play the 12-year-old freaking samurai, Doogie Howser, Japanese exchange student in ETU.
I'm just wondering if that's... Because I had one of those in my Deadlands Noir game, and I'm like, is it the same guy? Is it just this one guy that's always the teenage Japanese girl?
Or do you not listen to the better advice of not only the person you're allowing into your Deadlands game, but his best friend GM, who also said that's a bad idea. That is a bad idea. And then have somebody lifted off the ground with telekinesis and smashed to bits, and have all kinds of shit just go. You kill undead Abraham Lincoln.
The first session, the very first session, like the entire union that knew about it just cried themselves to sleep at night. Like,
I made the right character choice. I stand by it completely. So.
It was great because, like, okay, for those of you who don't know, Jared was in my last Deadlands Reloaded campaign. It was Last Sons, and in the process of that, like, I had gone through multiple campaigns. Like, all of my Deadlands universes are all connected via time travel. And like some of my characters that have been veteran, some of my players have had the same characters through like 2 campaigns. And one of them was a Harrowed, and she was gradually turning more and more to the dark side as play went on. And Jared kind of came in. And the great thing, I love this about his character, because his character was a time traveler. And he had this whole thing that if something is incongruent with what the time should be, it's going to destroy everything. So he was trying to correct the time stream by killing Abraham Lincoln and like just like flipping out and going crazy. And by the end of it, the final session was a PvP between Jared and the veteran character on one side, the Harrowed, and then like the 2 like paladin gunslingers on the other side. And it was a beautiful way to send them off. So even your ruckus players are still fun at the end of the day.
That being what it is. Dave and I both enjoy like playing each other's games too, and just going, your character does what? Oh God. Okay. Give me a second. Oh my God.
What do you mean your character pushes the vampire master out of the helicopter? Pushes him out. Oh, okay, roll post-strength.
Give me a strength, post-strength roll. Let's see what fucking happens.
Why are you kicking the pilot out of the Tomahawk? Do
Good
any
times.
of you have piloting?
Wait a minute, hold on. Your character is going to jump out of the 3rd-story dormitory room to get away from the campus security? Yeah. You realize that's 3 stories that you're going to be falling. Yeah, I know. She sure? Yeah. All right. Give me 3d6 plus 3. Yeah, how the fuck did you roll a 4, you bastard? You son of a bitch. Yeah, I shoulder rolled it. Stood right up and kept on running. But yeah, always good times when you get experienced GMs, get to sit at the players' table and just sort of like, Monkey, let me introduce Monkey to Wrench. Here we go. Let's see the GM deal with that. But on that note, I don't think we have anything else to talk about as far as the Fighter Mage Thief. All characters are not the same in Savage Worlds. The players are. Oh, shit just got real. Go ahead and take a look at go ahead and sign up at the Patreon. We just launched the Patreon, patreon.com/SWGM podcast. Let me go ahead and announce it here. After this episode tonight, the schedule is going to be, we're more than likely going to continue broadcasting the live stream on our regular schedule. That may be subject to change, but right now we're not confirmed on that. The YouTube video will not be available on the YouTube channel until the podcast version is published on the following Monday. So if we go and do the live broadcast on Thursday, the actual audio file of it will not be uploaded to iTunes or available until Monday morning. At the same time, the video on YouTube channel will become available publicly. Anybody who subscribes at the Patreon level at seasoned or above rank gets early access to the podcast video and the actual podcast audio, as well as other benefits that are listed there under the rewards. So take a look there. Support the Patreon. We're trying to get to a $50 a month level for the podcast, and that covers all of our hosting, webcast or web hosting and podcast hosting services, and allows us to continue to do this when we're just not coming out of pocket. So a lot of great things happening with the Patreon. Go check it out. www.patreon.com/SWGM podcast. Until next time, this is Jared Savage Daddy Gunning for Dustin the intern. Still no lower third. Dave, the Wills Maven Scott, and Chris, the Savage Mommy Fox, saying, keep rolling and stay savage.